Hello. This is the titration of vinegar lab. So what we're doing in this lab is I have burettes here, and you may or may not remember from our first year, we looked at equipment. So this is a burette. Okay, it's this tall, skinny thing. They're stored in the back room. And the opening here, as I turn this, when it is parallel or even with the tube, it will let solution out. When it's perpendicular, it will stop it. So we can manually and pretty precisely change the amount of volume that we add. And these start at 0 on top. You can't see that? 0 on top up here. And it's 50 on the bottom. So then we can subtract to see how much we've added. So what we're going to do is we have solutions in here. I have sodium hydroxide in this one and hydrochloric acid in this one. And we know the concentration of the HCl. It is 0.2 moles per decimeter cubed. So this is a standard solution. And we're going to use this to figure out the concentration of the sodium hydroxide solution in part 1. So using a standard solution to find an unknown concentration, because at the equivalence point, these two will have the same number of moles, so then we can do a calculation based on their volumes. So we will know their volumes from the burettes, and it will have equivalent moles at that point. And we're going to do that with an indicator, so I'll show you that in a second. In part 2, we're going to use then the NaOH that we found the concentration for, and we're going to find the concentration for your typical household vinegar, which is 5% acidity. So we're going to figure out the concentration of this, and then we're going to translate that to a percentage and see if this is actually the percentage of acetic acid or vinegar in here, and then 95% water essentially. All right, so part 1, I've got my burette set up. They're both filled to 0, so our starting reading is 0.0. We're going to add to my Erlenmeyer flask here. I'm going to add, it says 25 milliliters of the standard HCl. So my 0.2 HCl. I'm going to add about 25. Now, I'm going to go to approximately 25, and I'm not going to record this final volume because if I go too far past the equivalence point, I can add more HCl to counteract it and go back. So what I end with right now is not necessarily going to be my ending value when we're done. It kind of depends on how well I do. So I'm just going to open this up, and I'll shift this down. And you don't know if you can see, probably can't see it. And I'm going to stop when it's about at 25. There we go. Okay. So I've got 25 milliliters approximately of my acid. And if that's our end volume, we'll record that and use that volume, but it might not be. Now I'm going to add my phenolphthalein. And I don't know if you remember from year 1, when I did the alkali metals in water, I used this to see if the reaction happened, because this indicator will turn pink in a base, and it will turn or stay clear in an acid. So I'm going to add a couple drops of this. Now this is an acid, so it shouldn't do anything. Swirl it around. All right, so this is my HCl. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the NaOH, and what we're looking for is a pink color. And you'll notice, I'm going to tilt this down a little bit so you can see, and I have it on white paper, so because what we're looking for is a very faint pink color. But when some of this interacts with the indicator, you can see that pink there, it turns pink, but then it goes away because there's still more acid. What we're looking for is the perfect balance between equal amounts of NaOH and HCl, and what we're going to see is a very light pink, or a pink that stays for about 10 seconds or so. So you can see it's getting dark, and then I'm going to stop. I'm going to swirl it, and it goes away. We still have more acid. Once it kind of stays longer, I'm going to start to slow down. I'm adding quite a bit at a time right now. And see, I already went too far. And this is why I didn't record my HCl. Ooh, ooh, ooh. All right, so we went a little too far. That's a little too pink. So I'm going to add a few drops of acid here. Here we go. And this is what we want, this very slightly pink color. So this is our equivalence point, and now it's actually going away. You can see it a little bit on the white paper. So now I'm going to record my end volume. So I got to get up eye level with these. Well, this one's actually far enough down. So the HCl end volume is 25 point, I'm going to say 12, 25.12. My NaOH is, let me check this a little bit, 20.18. Okay, so 25.12. I'm going to write these down for myself too. And what did I say? 20.18. Okay, from 0. So we can subtract 0 from that and get our actual amount. Okay, so let's do a second trial, and then we'll do a third one after that, and we'll average them. So I'm going to do about 25 milliliters or so on this one, maybe a little bit less. I'm not going to fill it back up. I'm just going to go from here. So our end volume there will be our starting one for the second trial. All right, I'm going to stop about there. Okay, so there's my acid. We'll add our phenolphthalein. If we were in class, you'd be doing this yourself. What typically happened every once in a while was I'd have a group that would do the whole process, and they'd be adding the base, and they'd be like, Miss Kaufman, it's not turning pink. And I would say, did you add the phenolphthalein? And they'd be like, oh, shoot, I forgot that. Yeah, that's kind of important. Okay, so hopefully I don't forget. All right, so here we go. We're going to add the base. We can tell right away it's turning pink, which tells us we've added the phenolphthalein. All right, I'm going to hopefully not go past that endpoint. Let's see, last time it took about 20 or so milliliters. So I'm going to kind of keep an eye out for that. That kind of tells me like approximately when I'm getting close. All right, and I added a little bit less acid this time, so it might take a little less base as well. But that kind of gives me a ballpark idea. And I always know it's getting close too when the pink stays longer. Doesn't swirl away as quickly. And just like before, if I do go too far, I can always fix it. Oh, we're getting closer. By adding more acid. There we go. Okay, I think we're about there. I'm going to add about one more drop. I think we'll call that good. All right, so this one ends at, actually, let's do our acid first. So my acid end volume is, let me see. Sorry, it's not a great view of just the back of my head. 47.23. And my base end is 37 let's say 59. So base 37.59. And I said 47 point, I think I said 23. All right, now I'm going to do one more trial, but I'll fill these both up before we do that. All right, trial number 3. Then we can average our values. My starting volume for my acid is 18.00. So now I'm going to add about 25 milliliters. 10, 20. All right, and about 25. Okay. We won't record the end just in case we got to go back. Add my phenolphthalein. All right, and then we'll add our base. So our base is starting at, it should be 0. Yep, 0.00 for our base to start. All right, so I know it's going to be about 20 or so, so I'm just going to let it go a while. Okay. I'm at about, just about 16 added. We're at 17. I'm at 18 or so right now. 19 or so, so I'm going to go much more slowly. You know, we're close. Ooh, right there. We are right at the edge. And all right, I'm going to call that right there. Okay, so our end for our acid, our end volume is, it is 43.9, I'm going to say. Oops, that's not what I meant. 43.09, sorry. 43.09. And our base is going to be 19 point, I'm going to say 71. 19.71. Okay, so that is part 1.